Welcome to the Erin Wilson Show. I'm Erin, designer, creative strategist, intuitive, and the CEO of Erin Rachel Designs. This is a space for reflection, insights, and storytelling, with the intention of giving you the keys you need to unlock your creative potential and become the creative CEO of your own life. In today's episode, I welcome my first ever guest, Deborah Robison, RMT, IASTM. Deborah has been an RMT for close to 10 years and has over 15 years working in the medical field. With a lifelong passion for health, wellness, and the human body, she is dedicated to helping people of all ages manage acute and chronic conditions. Deborah has a special interest in the nervous system and treating the body as one interconnected unit. Some areas of focus in her practice include pain conditions, preventative care, patient education, neurological conditions, women's health, and rehabilitation. Outside of the clinic, she enjoys being a mom while spending time outdoors, practicing yoga, creating art, and making memories with family and friends. First of all, thank you so much for coming on, and also congrats for being my first guest on my podcast. Super excited to have you. So to introduce you, Deborah, to everyone, she is my RMT who I've been seeing for a while. Me and my husband both have been going to her. It's kind of hard to find a really good RMT that you just kind of vibe with. So even though we live a bit farther away, we keep going back. And something that I've noticed about you that I really love is you speak really passionately about what you do, and you have these little things that you just know so much about that are unexpected. For example, jaw release, and of course, nervous system and vagus nerve support, which we're going to get into. And I just love that. I can tell that you really love what you do. And so I'd love to give you the opportunity, Deborah, to introduce yourself. What do we need to know about you?
Absolutely. So I've been an RMT. I think I'm going on year 10 now, which is crazy to think because I feel like I'm always learning something new and things are always, I don't know, I love my job. So as you know, we talked about it before. And prior to actually being an RMT, the 5 years before I decided to go back to school, I was actually a medical office assistant for a private medical clinic. So I was already working in medical before I changed my path. And so I think that also introduced me to a lot of things that I use in my practice because I had quite a lot of experience working with all different kinds of physicians. So I was assisting about 9 different doctors at the time. And so it was really educational. So I definitely bring that into my practice and also add it to a lot of things that I do.
Wow, very cool. That sounds like it would have been a lot of work working with 9 different doctors. Good for you. And in your bio, you put IASTM. What does that stand for?
So that's instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization. So it's an instrument I use, and it's like a metal instrument that's sort of like a fascial scraper. So I use that a lot. I know that you know this. So I use it a lot. I find it really helpful to release tissue and fascia and to help with things like tendonitis and circulation. So I did the course, oh gosh, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and I love it. It's wonderful.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I have experienced that tool. It is intense, but it's in a good way. The hurt so good kind of way. And I saw in your Instagram bio you put dishing out wellness with a side of laughter, sarcasm, and some of life's unpredictable plot twists, which I just wanted to share that because I really love it. So much personality in it. And so what led you into massage therapy and nervous system work specifically? Because I know you're really passionate about that.
Massage therapy started when I was actually working at the doctor's clinic. I worked really closely with an orthopedic surgeon, and I really enjoyed her approach and stuff, and just kind of wanted to get a little bit more hands-on with patients and trying something different where I could be more helpful and more direct. She actually suggested massage therapy. So that's kind of how it started. And then I went to a course, like a weekend workshop, and then the ball just went rolling from there. And I really enjoyed it. And then with nervous system work, it kind of came naturally to me. So my husband, who's given me permission to speak about him here, he has epilepsy. And so, of course, as many people know, and those who don't, it's quite disruptive brain condition that causes the nervous system to dysfunction. And so he's been dealing with that for a long time. And so when he was going through the process of his journey, and we were seeing neurologists and stuff, we were learning so many things and things that could help him. And one of the things was a vagus nerve stimulator, and then other things, meditation, dietary changes, and all these things that affect your nervous system. And so then that just kind of got the ball rolling there. And I was like really interested in learning a lot more about inflammation and how it affects your nervous system, your brain, and that connection between the brain and the body and how it all works.
Wow, it's very cool. It's really neat how just one person's comment can change your life trajectory, first of all, and how you go
Yeah,
into this work. Like, I just love that. And also, it's so true that what we end up being most passionate about often comes from solving a personal problem.
1,000%. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's really cool. And was there a moment for you when you realized the body in general, I guess, in working with people or even your own body, was communicating something deeper to you than just sore muscles?
I mean, I feel like there's many moments. I can't like pick just one, but I actually had a nerve issue at one point. I had my own nerve injury when I was quite young. I had a pinched sciatic nerve from a disc herniation when I had a physical injury at work. And that was my first experience with pain. And it's pretty young. So I was really like taken back on how limited I was on the things that I could do. And also how it affected me in so many other ways, not just physically, but emotionally. My diet was off. I felt nauseous from pain, like all these other things. And it like really, I had sore muscles in places of like, why is that sore? Not the same area I'm injured in, and like all these different connections to the body. And then going through my own journey with that pain really was like, oh wow, it's a whole system. And it's not just treating the nerve that's having the issue, it's treating the whole body and treating your mind too. So
Yeah, no, that's very true. I know that comes up almost every time I come in for an appointment with you, how it's all connected. Because I'll be like, oh, that's really tender over here. And you're like, oh, that's because of this thing. You're overcompensating. And then we kind of talk about the root of it sometimes. And I always find that really interesting. So before we go too much deeper, for people who don't know, what is the vagus nerve? Because you talked about that.
yeah, absolutely. So the vagus nerve is the largest cranial nerve in the body. So it comes down both sides here, goes down your neck and down through your chest and into your abdominal area. And this nerve is a pathway, so it goes both ways. And it basically connects to so many functions in your body and so many organs in your body. And people kind of call it the gut brain axis. So this is between a lot of people call your gut your second brain. And I'm sure lots of people have heard that thrown out there. And so this is the nerve that they discuss in those theories, where it's not theories, proven, but this is where they discuss that connection between the brain, the gut, and the organs and how everything functions there. So it's quite, it has a lot of jobs.
And would you say, from what you've seen, research is more recent on the vagus nerve, or does it go back pretty far?
I think it goes back pretty far. I mean, I've been learning about it for at least 15 years. So I'm pretty sure it goes even further than that. So, I mean, they
Mhm.
probably had a in on this for so long, but I think now with the availability through social media and like educational programs and things like that, people are learning a lot more about it and the importance of it and how to work with it. So it's great.
Yeah, that's very true. Social media is really great for spreading good information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping on the topic of social media, for someone hearing nervous system regulation all over the place, what does that actually mean in your words?
Nervous system regulation is finding the body's ability to balance after being in a state of stress or relaxation. So it goes both ways. And so you have two sides of the scale, we'll say. So you have your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic is your rest, your digest, when things are working and recovering and all that kind of nice, like those are the things you want when you're like relaxing and sleeping and all that kind of stuff. And then you have the sympathetic, and the sympathetic nervous system is your, I'm sure many people have heard, your fight, flight, or freeze mode. And this is when your nervous system knows, hey, there's something off. We need to be prepared. We need to be on guard. And so then that fires up. And when you have too much of one or the other, it's not a great thing. You need to have a nice balance, right? And if one spikes, you need to be able to get back to the other one to kind of find that balance in the body. Otherwise, if you have too much of one, then things are going to be off.
Okay, that's really interesting because I think people think and talk a lot about regulating after being excited or stressed or whatever, but I haven't really heard of it before where you have to regulate kind of coming out of being relaxed and in that parasympathetic state, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's good to do both. So
Yeah.
basically, just like our muscles need exercise, our nervous system needs exercise too. So your nervous system needs to be able to respond both ways so that it can function properly, not just one way. So if your ability to go from 0 to 100 stress is really fast, but your ability to go back down is not, then it's going to be a little bit harder for your nervous system and your body to balance.
Right, that makes sense. I imagine for most people, it's more of a struggle to come back down to that relaxed state.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like a good problem to have the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And so, what happens in the body when we do spend too much time in survival mode or in a really chronically stressed state?
Absolutely. So lots of things can happen, particularly your body becomes used to it. So it will heighten really easily. So if you're in a situation that's maybe not really granted to be super stressful, but your body's used to being in that state, it will fly up into that state really fast, faster than what is actually necessary. And so when people say it's just like, I just instantly get stressed or I instantly feel my heartbeat or whatever, which is not great. You want to be able to handle situations well. It's totally normal to have a little bit of that, but it's being able to function properly without going over too quickly into that fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Okay. And I guess on the other side of that, what happens in the body when you spend too much time in the opposite state?
So if you're too calm and too relaxed and too the rest digest kind of situation, then you can get over fatigue, you can have muscle weakness, you can have brain fog, all these kinds of things. This is why we need like exercise. And so if you're not doing those little things to kind of like function your nervous system, then you're just going to feel kind of sluggish and maybe like foggy and tired all the time.
Okay. So exercise is one way to stress the body just enough to bring that balance between those two systems.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's other things too. So if you're focusing more on nervous system regulation, there's different things that you can do to kind of like get your nervous system to balance between each other. So for example, if you're in a heightened state of stress, you could do an ice cube on your neck or something like that to kind of distract your nervous system. And then if you're too relaxed, then you can get up and shake your arms and body and get your nerves moving so that it kind of responds.
Yeah.
So like to reverse kind of thing.
Oh, cool. I like that tip, the ice cube, especially right now. It's really hot lately, so that would be really nice. Awesome. I've been really into ecstatic dance. Have
Oh,
you
nice.
tried that before?
That's awesome. I haven't tried it myself, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it really helpful. And even just getting up a few times in the day and putting on a song and dancing, like working from home, I find that super helpful for stress and also just moving my body and not sitting all day.
For sure. It does. It's nice to do that and like just have a little break. And dancing's so good because you're getting music, which is great for your nervous system, and then body movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned some signs where someone may be dysregulated from being too in their parasympathetic nervous system, like the brain fog and stuff like that. What are some other signs that someone might be dysregulated one way or the other?
There's definitely lots of things, especially based on the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve functions are things like swallowing, your voice control, digestion, breathing. There's all kinds of stuff there. So lots of signs. Difficulty swallowing is one. Indigestion, of course, any kind of IBS-like symptoms. It's irritable bowel syndrome is very commonly related to nervous system stuff. And so that could be bloating, gas, poor bowel habits, and having lack of appetite or nausea when you eat. Acid reflux is another big one too, because that nerve goes right down by the esophagus. And so it can really affect that as well. So those are definitely some major signs for sure. And then also your immune system function. So you could be getting sick more frequently or having higher inflammation in your body is also another one. So the vagus nerve does a lot of inflammatory balance as well. And so if you're having lots of achy joints and soreness and that kind of stuff, puffiness and dysregulation and that way in your body, and you can really feel it, then that could be a sign that maybe you're in fight or flight a little too much.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of really fun stuff to experience. It's really interesting. Like for myself, I've recently, in recent months, been experiencing indigestion and acid reflux pretty regularly. And I've noticed a pattern where it always seems to be around my ovulation.
Okay.
I did a little bit of research into that. It seems like just because of the way the hormones relax the esophagus and stuff like that, it can cause that. Would you say that those kinds of symptoms, whether in the menstrual cycle or just in general, maybe there's other underlying causes, but are you more likely to experience those with a dysregulated nervous system?
Absolutely. I feel like it's all connected, especially when it's connected to your stomach and your intestines, and it's so close to your female organs. And
Mm.
so, there's inflammation going on, and there's cramping and muscle tension, and all that stuff can trigger other things. So, absolutely, for sure,
Hmm.
connected. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. So, in today's world, I think people are very ambitious, big career goals, life's very busy, we're always kind of on. So there's, amongst a lot of people, myself included, a big desire for growth. I think some of that comes from pressure, maybe societally, to always be producing more and be productive. But what do you think happens when our desire for growth and even productivity exceeds our body's sense of safety?
Right. I feel like long term, it can cause a lot of issues for sure.
Mhm.
Because then again, you're in that mode where you're heightened, you're not getting the rest that you should be. Maybe even you are resting, but your brain is constantly thinking. And
Yes.
so you're not really resting. You might be resting your body physically, but your mind's still active. And that still active is still going to affect your body. And so I think over time, it can really affect your work. Like if you have brain fog or you're sick all the time, then you're not going to be productive, right? Because you're not going to be feeling yourself and you're not going to be able to do the job that you want to do. And you might push yourself and be able to get it done for the first little while, but eventually you will hit a wall and it will crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the brain always being on, that's something I struggle with. And I do have ADHD as well, so I think that contributes. But also having my own business and just it's harder for me to shut off at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And this kind of leads into my next question around leadership. There's, a lot of people who are practicing leadership either in their own business, a company they work for, or even just in their life in some capacity. So, what connection is there between the state of your nervous system and leadership? How does it affect how you show up as a leader?
Absolutely. I think people can really feel other people's energy for sure, as far as like how your mood is and how much attention you're paying and all that kind of stuff. And so when you're a leader, obviously everyone's eyes are on you,
Mhm.
and they're looking to you for, advice or guidance or whatever it is. And I think people can feel that. So if you're coming in and you're tired and your stomach's not feeling good, and maybe you're a little short tempered or something like that because you don't feel well and someone's asking a question and you don't have the capacity to handle all those stresses because your stress
Mhm.
level's been high for so long. So I think that that's a really difficult position to be in because when you're a leader, you want to guide and be able to be there for everybody. But people can see when you're not there, you're not present and you're not fully with it. And I think emotionally you can become short or, have those difficult issues happen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure all or most of us have experienced a manager or a leader of some kind where it's obvious that, they're maybe not taking the best care of themselves, the stress is getting to them, and it is palpable. And you made a good point about people can sense energy, and I think that especially with women, we can be really good at masking things.
Absolutely.
Um, but we might not be fooling people as much as we think we are, just because you can
Yeah,
feel that difference, right?
absolutely. Yeah. I think you can only mask for so long.
Yeah.
Eventually it happens and like you can only do so much for so long when you're in that mode for sure.
It makes me think of have you seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
Leonardo DiCaprio? There's the one scene where he's driving home and he's very intoxicated. But he
Yeah.
thinks he drives home perfectly, and so his memory, like his recollection of it, is he manages to get home and the car's in perfect condition. He's perfectly safe. But what happened in reality was he like completely damaged the car. He
Yeah.
looks all disheveled. So it makes me think of that where it's like we might think we look so put together and calm and grounded and all these things. In reality, people are like, oh man, like it's a time bomb, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes you go through if you're in that stress mode, you might be like, what did I even say to them? Or like, did I give the right advice? I don't know. Maybe like you
Yeah.
might be saying things just to kind of get through the day. And then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know if that was the right thing, and maybe just
Yeah.
making decisions based not on a clear mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is all really interesting because I feel like I've been consciously doing a lot to support my nervous system, but some of the things you're saying are telling me that I do have more to look into and to work on. So, what are a few accessible ways that people can support their nervous system better?
Absolutely. I mean, we all know the normal stuff, diet, exercise, all those kind of a things. But there's lots of simple things you can do in your day if you're sitting at your desk or if you're in a meeting, even like where you can actually just even take a couple breaths.
Mhm.
Nice diaphragmatic breathing is really good. So your diaphragm, again, innervated with that nerve. So if you do some nice deep breathing into your belly, it will actually calm down the nerve and bring you down to a little bit of a lower level. And that's we call belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. And so doing a couple of those is really great. And that's something you can do anywhere. And people might not even notice you're doing it.
True.
So that's like a really good one. Some other things you can do is so we do a lot of your innervation of your ears and your nerves in your ears actually can really help release the vagus nerve as well because everything's kind of right behind. So even if you just kind of pull on your ears, sometimes that can just stretch your nervous system and just bring you down a little bit and just calm you down. And it doesn't have to be both. You could just do one or the other. Even just self massage can bring your nervous system down. So just squeezing your shoulders a little bit, doing a quick little neck stretch can sometimes even help with the dysregulation. So there's little things you can do throughout the day if you're feeling it. And I think recognizing it is the biggest factor for sure. Um, there's little machines you can even get that you can wear around your neck, and they actually have a little vibration here, and it will vibrate. And within 5 minutes, it calms the nervous system down quite well. So like when we had talked about my husband's epilepsy, they have a machine that you can actually implant. It's a surgical implant into the vagus nerve. And so if you feel a seizure coming on, you just activate the machine and it will trigger the vagus nerve to stop the seizures. So it's quite amazing what it can do. So there's lots of little techniques, like we talked about the ice,
Mm-mm.
cold shower is a really big one. Or I think a lot of people love the cold plunge stuff is like
Mhm.
really popular right now for that too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that medical advancement is amazing. So
Yeah,
good
it's
for.
so cool. And it's actually, I'm looking into it a little bit more, and they actually use it for things like migraines,
Mhm.
depression is another one. That's a really big one that they use it for. So it's
Mhm.
quite interesting. And there's some other studies too showing things with like gut bacteria and the brain and how it can go back and forth. And so, of course, like diet's a big one. So keeping that microbiome in your stomach going, making sure you have lots of good bacteria. So if you've ever taken antibiotics or something like that, and then making sure that you're replenishing after that kind of stuff is really important as well.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, those are all really great, very accessible things to do. And I noticed a lot of them, maybe other than the cold plunge, are very gentle.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of like lymphatic drainage, for example. I've always heard super gentle is better. Would you say it's the same for nervous system regulation, especially if someone's been dysregulated for a long time?
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on what you're doing. And, everyone's body's different. So
Mhm.
I would think it's a little bit of trial and error in the beginning to see what works for you, because not
Mhm.
everybody likes a cold plunge, or not everybody feels like that's their thing. But some people have, really dense muscle tissue, and sometimes they need a little bit more. Whereas sometimes just a simple fascial release. So fascia is sort of like your extra skin, and it covers all the muscles and the nerves in the body. And so it's kind of like this webbing that research is showing now they actually want to make it a part of the systems of the body because it's got so many functions. And so even just releasing that a little bit, which is similar to like very light kind of pulling, that can give someone's nervous system a huge break. So
Wow.
yeah. So I think it's always depends on the person. So when I see a patient, I kind of start slowing. We start a little bit lighter. Some people get a little bit more, and then we kind of see where they feel after. I
Okay.
tend to find that people can handle a little bit of both usually.
Mm.
So yeah.
Okay. And what are some indicators that the nervous system is becoming more regulated or that things are improving?
Mhm. So you'll find probably one, your digestion will be a lot better.
Hmm.
If you're resting or relaxing, you'll notice you'll be able to focus more on things.
Okay.
So sometimes people will be sitting there and they'll watch a show and then the show will be over and they'll be like, I totally forgot what happened or I missed a part of the show and now I don't know what's going on because they were probably too heightened, right? But
Yeah.
if you can lose yourself in a show and kind of be really present in that moment, that's a really good sign, actually, that you're able to focus and like shut down for a moment and be present in that moment. Another one would be having your stomach digest, like hearing it, making those sounds and stuff is actually a good thing. And that's probably one of the top things I hear when patients are on the table near the end of their treatment if their stomach starts to gurgle a little bit and they're always like, oh, sorry. I'm like, no, that's a good thing. This means you're resting, you're digesting, your body's functioning the way it should be. So that's always
Yeah.
a time. And then having all that proper stomach stuff, I think is a huge sign, like better bowel movement, more regular, all that kind of stuff is so important.
Yeah. That's cool that the tummy grumbles are like music to your ears. It's proof that what you're doing is working.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
That's awesome. I've been exploring EFT tapping or emotional freedom technique.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of correlation between that and the nervous system?
Absolutely. So I don't know too much about it, but I have seen it as well. And I've actually tried it myself. And I think a lot of it is very rhythmic, what our nervous system naturally draws to. So one thing that I like to do in practice is sort of like a rhythmic pushing of the body, and it's like letting the body be loose and like just this rhythmic motion. Well, it's almost like a little rocking kind of sensation will help the nervous system kind of release. And I find the tapping is very similar. That repetitive motion really helps. I think from what I read about it, it's based on Chinese medicine, pressure points. And so those tend to be really connected to the nervous system as well, from what I know. I don't know too much about the acupuncture and acupressure as much, but I think even just the rhythmic kind of motion with it, and then being able to say what you're saying during the process, because I know some people will say like a little affirmation or whatever it is. I think that tapping helps you focus more on what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, and it's really interesting because it's not something that you immediately experience benefits from, but I've found doing it regularly that I do feel better. So it kind of feels like magic sometimes, honestly, but I thought of it because when you were talking about digestion sounds, for me, it's almost without fail, within about 5 minutes of doing tapping, I'll burp. And so I was curious and I looked into it, and it says that's actually a sign that your digestion's calming down, your nervous system is settling. So,
Absolutely. And that's probably part of your acid reflux.
right.
It's probably haunting. And so now you're like, oh, release.
Yeah, it's good motivation for me to do it even more regularly.
Well, and that's another great one. You can do it at the office, take a quick minute and like do it before a meeting, and that'll really calm you down. I actually started doing it when I was in school before final exams. I did it. And it was amazing because we had to do a lot of like presentations and stuff, which is not necessarily a large audience, not my favorite, but I was a little bit nervous. But I would do that beforehand, and I felt so much more calm and confident and like, okay, got this. It was really good.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be used for so many different things, and I found that there's so many free videos online you can follow. I've also been using ChatGPT to generate scripts for me, which is really cool because I work with it a lot, so it's quite familiar with just what I'm going through in life.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of ways to explore that.
So cool.
Yeah. So what nervous system advice do you wish everyone knew?
Good.
If you could pick one thing.
Don't ignore your body. Don't ignore it. Because I think it speaks loudly. And people ignore it until it's like way, way later than it should be. And the more you ignore it, the more likely you are to get a chronic issue. Right?
Yeah.
So it's so much better to be preventative than treating, right? I think everybody has experience in this with anxiety or some sort of like heightened nervous system or depression, all these different things. I think everyone's experienced something in their life where they've been in that fight, flight, or freeze, right? Not because they're physically in danger by like a lion, but because of something that's happening to them in their life or stress or whatever. And I think when we stay in that mode, then that's when the chronic stuff starts to happen and the chronic illnesses can start to creep up really quickly.
Yeah, I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way. I feel like the body just starts screaming. I think at first it's more like a whisper, and then it just increases over time.
Yeah. And a lot of it too, like it's like your blood pressure, even all these things that can be affected. And long term, we all know like you know, you don't want to have high blood pressure and you don't want those things long term because it's going to cause heart disease and all this stuff. And so there's so much correlation and connection, and cardiologists are taking it more into consideration. Like stress is way up there with cardiovascular issues and diseases.
Yeah.
So it's better to get a handle on it before it gets a handle on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Very good advice. This has all been really informative and also really accessible, which I love. Because there's so much, wellness advice online that's really just not practical or accessible to people. So it's really great to just start with a few small things like an ice cube on your neck and see what happens.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a hard thing. It could just be one little change a day can make a huge difference, right?
Yeah, for sure. So this is my signature question for my podcast. What does being the creative CEO of your own life mean to you?
I think having more accountability for myself and what I put out there
Okay,
and feeling more empowered to make changes and to help others.
cool. Yeah, kind of connecting with that mission and that drive within you.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. I love that. I like that you connected it to service.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And finally, how can listeners connect with you or work with you?
So I work at Inlet Integrated Health Clinic in Fort Moody. So that's definitely a way if anyone ever wants to come in, you can get it to me there. And then I also have an Instagram. It's I Heart Wellbeing. And yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for joining me and for being my first guest. This has been really helpful information, and I've loved chatting with you. So thank you so much.
awesome. Thank you.